A very good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Friday morning episode of The Boardroom. Very happy to be back with you, and today to be discussing an important topic, digital innovation. Before we do, though, we are live at the moment, so if you are catching us live, please do add any questions or comments that you have for our interviewees below. We would love to add those to our conversation. If you don't catch this live, then this will be streamable back on who'swho.mt, Malta's leading business portal. Now, as I said today, our conversation is going to be all about digital innovation. And to help me understand more about that, we're going to be welcoming three guests from the Malta Digital Innovation Authority. They are Trevor Sammut, Chief Regulatory Officer, Stephen McCarthy, Chief Executive Officer, and Efrem Borg, Chief Technology Officer. Lots of technology, lots of digital innovation. We have so much to learn from you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Welcome on the Boardroom.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So first of all, Stephen, you are CEO, and I'm going to come to you first just to tell us a little bit about what the Malta Digital Innovation Authority is and the remit of the authority.
Okay, well, basically the remit of the authority is twofold. First of all, it has the duty to license technology. But more than that, it is also an authority that gives assurance to the technology. And let me give you a background from where we started, because we need to have a background from where we started. This started about 2 years ago when there was the hype of blockchain, etc. There were a lot of ICOs where a lot of people were investing a lot of money into ICOs. And at that time, unfortunately, the investment that people and users were putting in the technology did not perform as was promised. So there we came up with the idea that in this case, for innovative technology, we need to put assurance in the technology. What do we mean by assurance? By assurance, we mean that we will certify at least that what is being promised in English by the operators is being performed by the technology. And that is where we came in. Now, we had some challenges on this. Why? Because this is a new technology when it comes to DLT and blockchain. Now we also have artificial intelligence, etc., and we're continuing to increase. So this was a challenge in the sense that how can we, as an authority, have the resources in all this innovative technology when these resources are pretty difficult to find, etc., etc. So we opted for a system whereby we decided to accredit systems auditors. Accredit systems auditors which have an international reputation, which also have international experience and resources. For example, they're listed in our website, but for example, there's PwC, KPMG, BDO, etc., etc. These are all listed. And in that way, we have set guidelines. We have made an assessment of these systems auditors, and we have accredited what we presently have 5 systems auditors in order to do the due diligence on the technology. And that is where we are today. One final point which I want to say about the authority is this, that up till now we have been used to doing due diligence on individuals. When we have operators and applications, we do due diligence. In fact, the MDIA also does due diligence on the persons behind the technology. But now we went a step further. Now we're doing due diligence on the technology itself. And this is something different. It's something new. Thanks to the task force that there was 2 years ago, they came up with this idea and they said, this is the way forward. And I'm saying thanks to them. Why? Because as we're speaking, we're presently in consultation, in discussions with the European Commission. And the European Commission are suggesting exactly what we have done 2 years ago. So I always said that Malta in this area was ahead of its times. And we're being proven that because now the European Commission are putting pen on paper exactly through legislation that when it comes to innovative technology, especially critical systems, it's not right to simply put a critical system and go on and use it without this system being reviewed. And that is exactly what we decided to do 2 years ago, and which we're doing at the moment.
Okay. Well, Stephen, that's so interesting. I mean, it sort of puts minds at rest, doesn't it, about technology? I think, technology can, to the man on the street, even to some business owners, feel quite overwhelming. So it's certainly exciting and reassuring to hear about these steps being put in place to keep it all, organized and understood and safe. And I'd love to hear a little bit, Stephen, staying with you, about your headline projects, perhaps in the past couple of years. Are there any that you could share with us?
Yes, our headline project in these last 2 years is that we initially started with doing assurances on DLT, one of them being blockchain. But now we have widened our remit in no small way. We're venturing into, as I said, artificial intelligence, assurances of artificial intelligence, which is quite challenging in itself. But we're also doing assurances for critical systems. Let me point this issue of critical systems, and I would prefer to give examples. So because everybody would say, what are critical systems? Let me give you an example. Recently, Malta has launched, and MDIA has participated in this process. We have launched the contact tracing application.
Oh.
Okay. And again, the contact tracing application, given the rigid rules that we have for privacy issues, we wanted to make sure that users can rest their mind that what we're saying, that there is no access to private information, is true. And that is where we came in again as MDIA, because the Ministry of Health did not want to launch this application unless an assurance, a review is made by one of our systems auditors that the data, the private data, is not accessible to individuals and not even to the central authority, which is the health. And that is the case in the case of contact tracing application. So given this new technology, given this innovative technology, given this artificial intelligence, etc., these 2 years we have been working to consolidate the notion of the importance of having assurances of technology. And as I said, instead, in these 2 years, instead of just restricting ourselves to DLT, blockchain, we have widened our remit to critical systems, cybersecurity, and even data protection. What do I mean by data protection? We're also reviewing and doing assurances that if a system says that it is abiding by data protection, we make sure that the software involved performs exactly what is being stated by the operator. So now we're widening quite our remit from just DLT, from just blockchain to other important areas.
Wow. Well, that certainly gets my mind racing, Stephen. And it just makes me think, if you weren't doing this very valuable work, what could happen? What could happen with technology that perhaps, again, the man on the street doesn't realize if you weren't doing your job?
Many things. I mean, I don't want to sort of go into the detail, but for example, we just heard, which was on the news, the problems that Transport Malta was facing. Okay, with the breach of the data, etc., etc. Now, when we do our audit, when we do our review, it doesn't mean that we are 100% safe that something like that doesn't happen. But I can assure you that it will be a much more robust system than not having the systems audit. And that is where we come in. And these, especially when it comes to cybersecurity, and I'm sure that Efrem will delve into it into more detail over there. But especially when it comes to cybersecurity, these are assurances are of paramount importance. And we're also in discussion with the government that when it comes to the public sector and it comes to critical systems, the systems audit should be a mandatory. There should be a mandatory systems audit when it comes to a critical system, when it comes within the remit of the public sector. And I don't need to go into details such as the health system, data protection, data of individuals, etc., etc.
Well, Stephen, certainly lots to think about there. So thank you for that. Trevor, I'm going to come to you now. I'd just love you to clarify for our viewers, if possible, please, the role that you play in the certification of innovative technology. And is this for technology that originates in Malta or for sort of innovation used in Malta?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for the invitation here, making us welcome here in this virtual sphere. Yes, as Stephen said, simplifying it even further, when you buy hardware today, right, there's already engineering standards at play. So if you have a lovely, nice, modern toaster at home, you know that it has certain certification, you may or may not know, on the hardware itself. So it must have sensors, it must have PID perhaps, or thermostat, so it doesn't go over a specific temperature. With the same logic, so far, there are very limited certifications on software. Now, this is kind of ironic because as we go along further in digitization and technology, things are becoming more software controlled. So today, the toaster is no longer the traditional thermostat-based toaster, right? You can control it from your phone. It's a networkable. It's a networkable device. So is it secure that way? Are there software controls? Whether these controls also affect temperatures or they affect your security at home. So today we live in a world where it's quite weird and bizarre, where you can actually hack someone through a toaster rather than try to attack the router, because that may be the weakest link. Now, when you come to software assurances, that's exactly what we started doing, creating this whole framework from scratch. We had no one to copy, no one to go to. So as we went along, we started seeing papers being released and even participated in some. So everything is still new. So I'm working at the very cutting edge of innovation in that aspect, the legal framework. And as Stephen said, we started from DLT, right? Because that was the very first technologies where people were actually putting their cash in. And then you start seeing scammers where they tell you, hey, this is blockchain, because blockchain is very, very secure if implemented correctly. If there are glitches in the code, if the function of the code is not really doing what it's saying that it's doing, maybe maliciously, or maybe through a mistake in the code or oversight, right? We've seen these hacks online where people get their digital wallets depleted. And that's exactly our role, where code line by line out through our accredited systems auditors and their subject matter experts can review this code to assure that it's in line with what we call the blueprint. The blueprint is the design of the software, right? You asked the question whether this is only something about Malta. No, it's not the case. The system can be anywhere as far as we are concerned. However, to become MDIA certified, one of the examples is you must have what we call the forensic node. The forensic node is a server. It keeps log of all activity going in a DLT platform or AI platform or whatever the platform may be, since we're widening the remit as well. And that particular forensic node must be, as per our regulations, located in Maltese jurisdiction. Reason being, if there is a police case, if there is an issue or criminal case of sorts, it's easy to access the data through the technical administrator, another mandate, something that we mandate on someone who wants our certification, so that if necessary, this can be provided to police for investigations.
Wow, that's a lot of information there, Trevor. Thank you for putting it so well. A few really great examples. Certainly something I never thought about, my toaster being hacked. My goodness, lots of things to think about. Although I do like the idea of coming downstairs to freshly made toast. So obviously we want these technologies to come into play, but of course, really understanding the value that you bring in making us safe in bringing these technologies to market. So Trevor, I'll sort of stay with you to ask you about the key challenges that there are to ensure that you get to do your job well and that technology can be certified, according to your standards.
Absolutely. So we are quite proud of the fact that our standard is quite a robust one. As a consequence, it does not apply to all. And that's very understandable because, as also Stephen said, it's a risk-based approach. So let's say if you have your little toaster and it's a very low-risk application, it's just being in your kitchen, maybe there's no need for any company there to certify that particular toaster. But it may be the case that the same technology will be applied in a very high-risk environment. Let's say that the same toaster is now at a chemical company where the atmosphere, if you exceed 80 degrees Celsius on any device, you leave a crater behind you. So suddenly, the requirement to have temperature control, if it's done via software especially or somehow controlled, has now become a high-risk application. So surely, the lead authority governing that sector may very well choose, and it makes a lot of logical sense, to have our certification mandated on that product. Again, an example, I'm trying to keep it with simple devices. This scales up into devices which are networkable. All of them, we call them IoTs, or that the popular word is an IoT, an Internet of Things. It's for us IT guys, it's a bit of a misnomer because actually these are networkable devices. They do computations at the very end, and they can be very influential. With the same example that I gave you on a toaster, it can be a valve that controls high pressure propane gas, for example, which can be a networkable device, has software on it, has some logic. And the question is that logic, is that software certified that it's really have been tested appropriately and is doing what it's supposed to be doing?
Again, Trevor, thank you. Fantastic insight there for our viewers. And Efrem, I'd love to come to you now to give your insight into the most innovative technology that is relevant to the Maltese market in particular.
Hi, John. Thank you for this opportunity. I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to be able to explain to the citizen in the street what this authority is set up to do. Obviously, with myself, Trevor, and Stephen giving different insights as to what our mandate is. So apart from DLT, as Stephen and Trevor have mentioned, we see artificial intelligence, which is picking up pace, mostly also because due to its ease in applicability. Obviously, when applied correctly, AI can aid human in conducting day-to-day activities with such ease. It removes the tedious tasks and provides humans with decisions that they can then decide upon. We, as an authority, deem that for the successful implementation of AI, awareness and creating digital skills for the implementation of such technologies is obviously key. In fact, MDIA have recently launched a University of Malta scholarship for courses in AI, and we are very shortly going to start a number of courses in secondary schools promoting and explaining artificial intelligence and DLT to senior school students. We believe that capturing students early obviously can provide the digital skills that Malta needs to be able to adopt these innovative technologies. Artificial intelligence is backed by a national strategy with quite a daunting vision. In fact, it's 2020-2030, accompanied with a plan of implementation as well. Also substantiated with substantial budgets from national budgets. So we have seen approximately 1 million euros in 2020 and then allocated 2 million in 2021. MDIA, in fact, are overseeing the implementation of such strategy following a number of initiatives, approximately 72, which need to be conducted, but 6 main pilot projects in various sectors, such as transport, health, education, and also customer service, such as service.gov. Other technologies that we see, we have a close eye on, obviously, innovative technologies, we're seeing supercomputing, which is picking up pace, and high-speed connectivity, 5G. As Stephen rightly mentioned, the importance of having cybersecurity control objectives all throughout in any technology, being it traditional and also innovative.
Wow, Efrem, again, this today is just really blowing my mind about the possibilities and all the exciting things that our viewers can know about, and of course all the amazing work that you're doing behind the scenes. And Trevor, I'll come back to you now perhaps for a little bit of insight into why it's important that a body such as MDIA has a process of certification.
Absolutely, and a legal framework to back it up, I would add, and a legal framework that makes technological sense. First and foremost, we want to keep making technological sense and not try to regulate that which we don't understand all too well yet. So that's always the dilemma, the challenge out there, right? As an authority, we are made up substantially of IT guys as well, network engineers, and people coming from different areas of IT. As you know, IT is a huge subject. It's implemented everywhere now. Back in the days, it was something nice to have. Whatever was something nice to have in IT now is, oh my, I cannot live without this anymore. So as soon as today someone switches off his email, is absolutely chaos. Why is it important to have such an authority? It's important because you need an autonomous body that's independent from the one being audited. So you don't want to have the scenario, say you have this toaster manufacturing certifying itself. If you have such a scenario, there's an immediate, very obvious conflict of interest. You need third parties. Okay, so one can say, okay, you can commission a company directly. Yes, but is the company really delivering on their promise of delivering a proper systems audit? And that's where MBIA comes in, because we also check our systems auditors that they're really doing the job properly in technology, especially in technology. And yes, so that's one of the key there. So as you can see, we kind of adopted the DLT mentality where you are trustless. And trustless, all of this in the background, we are people used to working in the background all the time. Like most IT guys can tell you, you never perhaps know of the IT guy until things go wrong, right? So when you have such a framework, at the end, it results in assurances and a better overall product that's safer and more secure to use.
And yes, hands up, you guys are so valuable to us, the IT guys, aren't you? I mean, what could we do without you in today's world, honestly? But Trevor, just to sort of follow on from what you were saying there, you know, how does this really protect the user? Anybody at home thinking about how this impacts them? Are they more protected as a result of this work?
Absolutely. So given that I started with the example that today everything is software controlled, or rather a lot of things are software controlled. Let's say you installed an app, right, on your phone, and you've been given the assurance that this does X, Y, and Z, and it tells you press the red button to have a pizza delivered, right? You don't really know the red button, what the actual red button is doing, unless you actually understand code. But you may, even if you do understand code, you may not have access to the code because it might be a closed source system, right? So it's not an open source system. And so maybe when you press this big red button, it delivers the pizza to your door, but also keeps a log or a copy of your Visa card or your payment card, and say within 6 months it does another transaction behind your back. Now, how can you know that it is not doing that, right? Again, I'm not scaremongering, but it's a reality. It's a reality. We've seen scammy software doing this. Sometimes this happens due to mistakes in code, and at other times it happens maliciously. Unless there is software certification on the function, and that's why we call it functional correctness, right? That's where the word is coming for. Functional correcting is that the function is indeed correct. So the software developer tells you, you press the big red button, A, B, C will happen. It is truly the fact that A, B, C only are happening and not something else.
Okay. Well, thank you, Trevor, again, getting so much insight here this morning and starting to understand a little bit about why they always tell us don't press the red button. But thanks to you, we can press the red button. So, Efrem, over to you now to tell me a little bit about how Malta is leading the field in technology. Is it? And, what can we know a bit more about that?
Definitely is. I mean, Joe, we have to exploit our small size and the centralized operating model that we adopt as a country. In fact, Malta, as was stated before, was the first jurisdiction to create a legal framework in terms of technology. Wow. The trick here is to find the right balance between promoting innovative tech and controlling or regulating it. One has to be cautious as to ensure that through regulation we do not inhibit the uptake of innovative technology, because the ultimate objective of our country is to promote the use of innovative technologies, because we are adamant of the benefits, the social benefits that this brings along. Another area where Malta is leading also is the strategies, the collection, the suite of strategies relating to digital. In fact, if I may mention, the Digital Malta strategy, for example, the artificial intelligence strategy, cybersecurity strategy. So all these strategies aligned into ensuring that Malta reaches its objectives also in the digital sphere.
Wow, very exciting there, Efrem. Thank you so much for that insight. And just to stay with you, do you think there's an opportunity for Malta perhaps to further position itself as a world leader in this respect? Is this something we can look forward to? And what would be your advice there?
Yes, obviously, we see EU regulations stemming in particular sectors, promoting and also in some case demanding certification of technologies, traditional and also innovative. We also see EU recognizing the importance of having a centralized function for certification. Obviously, notwithstanding the challenges that MDIA have experienced, because obviously when you establish a path, you do encounter a number of challenges and hurdles. The model that Malta through MDIA has adopted is somewhat something which other member states are looking upon and obviously considering as well. So that is obviously makes us proud that we have been the trendsetters in this regard.
Okay, thank you. And Trevor and Efrem, I'd just like, before we start to wrap up our conversation today, I'd love to come to you both and just to tell me, why should business people care about this? The majority of our viewers are business people, entrepreneurs, etc. Should they be interested in this type of technology? How can it affect their businesses? And Trevor, I'll come to you first.
Yes, absolutely. So I answered the question with another question. Do you afford, because it might be the case where the answer is yes, but do you afford to have systems failing due to software glitches, to malpractices in implementation, through similar reasons, which could have been easily avoidable through a systems audit, through one of our accredited systems auditor, for example? Do you afford to have such a case? Now, if you are a very simple organization, I would argue that you still do not afford, right? Of course, there is a cost associated with our certification program and with doing audits, right? But you have to see this cost in the light of that you're starting to operate, you've ramped up, you've become important as a business. Once you've become important as a business, you're at the target of hackers, especially if you're doing internet business, you're increasing your target size, right? Now, if you're increasing your target size, I would argue you have to increase your shield size, right? Because the bigger you become, the more I can prick at you. So I think that kind of sums it up in a nutshell.
It does indeed. Efrem, I'd love your thoughts on that as well.
The nice thing about me and Trevor is that we have separate roles with different mandates. So my mandate is promoting innovative technology. Trevor is regulating. So together we have to find a balance to ensure the safe implementation of innovative technologies. I come from a sector, Joe, of cybersecurity, doing quite an important job in safeguarding quite sensitive data for the country. And I've seen and I've experienced firsthand the implementation and the benefits, the social benefits that have been brought along with the implementation of innovative technologies. So artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, which have brought tremendous value, tremendous agility in reducing the detection times, from one which was taking us hours into one which was predicting attacks before they actually happened. So obviously, I am an advocate a natural advocate of introducing innovative technologies within business operations, because definitely I have experienced firsthand the benefits that such technologies do implement. Obviously, safely and surely ensure that technology, innovative technology, brings about social benefits and not social distress.
Fantastic. And Stephen, I'd love actually to get your insight on that one as well, and perhaps
Yes,
what your thoughts are for the business community.
Yes, I think this is, in my opinion, the most interesting question, and I will explain why. The reason being is that there has been loads of books in economics in order to increase the output of a country. And just for a moment, because I'm hearing rebounds from my and these books, they all focused on a country on increasing its output. Why? Because output then increases its standard of living, basically. And there have been many theories, many economists, many books, many policies, many schools of thought. Now we have something totally different. Now we have the technology, which in my opinion is only slowly being accepted and embraced. And this technology will tremendously increase the output of a country, which will tremendously increase our standard of living, basically. And it's not enough that the government is important. We need an awareness by the whole public and by the business community, which unfortunately, in my opinion, is not there. And that is why we, besides the certification, as Trevor mentioned, besides that, we're also working on the promotion of the awareness of this technology at students at the age of 10 and 11, but also of the business community. Let me give you just one slight example, and in order to understand, Efrem mentioned that Transport Malta is working on an AI project for junctions, whereby the lights, the traffic lights, will be put on and off according, not by time, because sometimes you stand in the car there waiting for the color to change when there's no traffic whatsoever. But the colors change according to the traffic that there is. Now that will take a lot of time for transport, a lot of time, working time, in order to arrive at the office. But it also saves on environment for the emission of the car. So imagine the huge impact that something simple like in technology will have on our standard of living and our output, etc. And this is something which unfortunately, I find that is not being taken into consideration en masse. And that is where we want to go. In fact, in the last budget, in the government budget, there were funds purely allocated for this objective. And so instead, MDIA, let me put MDIA, instead of just working internally on the process, etc., we must also reach out to bring this awareness, as I said, to the students and to the public and to the business community. Because it's only then when there is a widespread awareness of the benefit of this technology that I believe we will make the necessary strides and steps forward for the country.
Well, that's again, Stephen, very exciting there. The opportunities there for education and, of course, also implementation within the business community. So as we wrap up our conversation today, I'd love to come to each of you in turn to tell me what your most important tip is for businesses to know about the digital future. And Trevor, I'm going to come to you first.
Yes, so a tip for the businesses on digital future. Okay, so as you see, of course, as time goes by, you start seeing new technologies coming. They pop in and out of existence at times. So my advice would be delve into the technology itself, study it well, and because then and only then can you realize the benefits. Of course, when you see hype, it's all about the benefits. Okay, but of course, there are always risks. Risks of not implementing it or risks of implementing it. Or the benefit is only there if you implement it, but in a very proper and regulated way. So again, technology is a very wide word, Joe. So you can't exactly anticipate what will come out, what will be available in the future for implementation in businesses. But absolutely, I think as an additional tip, right? It's most important to avoid people who will give you the product, a very innovative product at a glance, implement it at a rush. Most such products at a rush will work. They will work fantastically well, but end up leaving you some loophole you open to attacks, which can even in an instant bring down your business, especially nowadays with the pandemic, where your business might be 90% online. So your dependency on having online availability, staying available to your customers is of paramount importance. But because you spent on a system, you spent a lot of money on a system, but then decided to implement it yourself without proper knowledge, for example, or maybe get some amateur implemented really quickly, or not going for certification if you are a business needing very high availability, because you saw the extra bit of expense on certification is too much for you. What are the consequences? So maybe because of being a regulatory sphere, right? I would ask the question back: what are the consequences of you of failing spectacularly due to a technological malfunction, intended or otherwise?
Absolutely. Well, a great tip there to sort of stay ahead of the game, Trevor. Thank you very much. And Efrem, I will come to you next. What is your tip?
Okay, I'll latch on to Trevor's comment regarding businesses and how important it is during this particular period that we are living. Businesses have gone online, and we see the importance of having rigid, robust infrastructures which work online. My tip to business owners, maybe small, medium enterprises, is to keep a watchful eye on cybersecurity tips. We do have national campaigns promoting cyber hygiene. I strongly advise that people follow these campaigns and adopt these little tips, which might give great value in protecting these infrastructures, which, as Trevor said, most of which are done, by either by business owners or other people who might not be as proficient. So use these tips to ensure that your business is online. The consequences of going offline in such a period, is devastating, and is not nice for anyone. So this is my tip from my end. Obviously, a bit biased in cybersecurity.
Of course, cyber hygiene. You learn something new every day. My goodness. Thank you, Efrem. And finally, Stephen, I will come to you for your tip. And also, perhaps if you can let our viewers know if they're interested to get in touch, interested to learn more, how they can do so with the MDIA.
Okay. To answer your question with respect to tips to the businessman and the business sector, is that if you want to be leader in your sector, if you want to increase your profit, then you have to invest in technology. And you cannot look at technology as an unnecessary expense. So businesses are there to make profits. The investment in technology is not an added expense, but it will increase your profit if obviously the investment is done in the right way. Otherwise, MDIA, as Trevor mentioned, is a licensing organization. Besides that, we also give advice if there are queries with the technology, which we get a lot. I must admit, which we get a lot, mainly from the public sector, but we're also available to give advice also in the private sector. It's very easy to contact directly one of us. We have the MDIA website, which you can find all the information and contact information over.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I'm sure there are going to be people out there who are eager to get in touch, eager to learn more. Such great advice that you've shared with us today, gentlemen, about the digital future that we can look forward to, but obviously step carefully into. So I really, really do appreciate your insight. Thank you for being with me on the Boardroom. And thank you to you also at home or at the office for being with us today. We love having you with us. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. As always, if you have any requests for the kind of information you'd like to see on this show, let us know. But from me and from my guests today, that's it. We look forward to seeing you next episode on the Boardroom.